Geofencing is a form of what we call programmatic display advertising or display advertising. But essentially, it gives you the ability as an advertiser to target people and serve ads to people based on the places that they go.
Welcome to the Agents of Change podcast, the podcast for today's digital marketer with your host, Rich Brooks, and the Agents of Change, search, social, and mobile.
Hey, true believers, this is Rich Brooks, and you're tuned in to the Agents of Change podcast, the podcast that's for entrepreneurs, marketers, small business owners, and just about anybody that's looking to reach more of your ideal customers through search, social, and mobile marketing. This is episode 246, and we are powered by Flight New Media. Imagine this. You've got a table at a giant expo where maybe you don't have the biggest footprint. Maybe you're a David and there's a bunch of Goliaths out there. But you could advertise to everyone who walked into that expo with a promotion for your booth, driving foot traffic. Or after the expo is over, you could target all the people who are at the expo, even if the conference didn't give you their contact information. Here's another one. Because I was just presenting to a room full of boat dealers on behalf of Sabre Yachts and Back Cove Yachts, imagine you could send ads to everyone who visited a local marina through their mobile browser or the apps they're already using, promoting your own boat sales. This is called geofencing, and today we're going to be talking with Justin Croxton, who's going to share with us the power of geofencing and how you can get ahead of the competition with this technology. Now, before we do that, I just want to point out that we are now in the month of May, which means that tickets for the 7th Annual Agents of Change Conference are on sale. Could not be more excited about this. We officially launched ticket sales on May 1st, and we only have a very limited number of early bird tickets. Once those are gone, even if the early bird period is still going on, there are no more early bird tickets, and you're going to have to pay more for your tickets. When they're gone, they are gone. We set aside 100 early bird tickets, and before ticket sales even opened, already a third of them were gone. That was from alumni tickets, people who were at last year's conference and said, "This is so good that even though I have no idea who's speaking in 2018, I'm just going to buy tickets because that's how good it is." 1/3 of the tickets for the early bird discounts are already gone. You better get on this. We've got a growing list of digital marketing experts coming to Portland, Maine on Thursday, September 20th. And we've also got a bonus day, an optional bonus day of workshops, in-depth workshops on Friday, September 21st. Both of these days are dedicated to helping you reach and engage more of your ideal customers through search, social, and mobile marketing. We've got an opening keynote from Joel Comm and presentations on SEO, digital advertising, the latest in social media marketing, email trends, how to sell on Amazon, and a whole lot more. I can't even begin to tell you all the stuff that's going on this year. You cannot afford to miss this. For the most updated version of the agenda, the speakers, the topics, head on over to theagentsofchange.com. You can check that out because we're adding more people and more topics all the time. Now, even if you can't make it to Portland, Maine, you're still going to want to go and check this out because if you don't know this, we do a live feed of the conference. We sell a virtual pass that you can actually watch live, or you can get all the content on demand. And I'll have more to talk about that as time goes on. People who have been listening to the show for a while know that that's how we always do it, but it's a fantastic deal. As last year, whenever you buy a physical pass to the conference, you also get the virtual pass, so you'll be able to, any session you miss because it's a breakout session and you had to choose one and miss another, you're going to be able to get the recordings from both of those. So don't feel like you're going to miss out on anything. The price of a physical ticket for the Agents of Change 2018 is going to be $349. That includes breakfast, lunch, and a networking event with free pizza, free beer, and free liquor. But the early bird tickets, the ones that there's only 67 left of as of the recording of this, are only $179, almost half off. The virtual passes are going to be $199 day of. They are currently only $99. So we've got these 4 in-depth workshops on Friday, the 21st of September. I want to tell you just briefly about them. They're each going to be 3 hours long. They're both very hands-on. They're very in-depth. They're very limited to the number of people we're going to allow in each room. We've got one from Joel Comm on live video, another one on Facebook ads by our own Amanda O'Brien. Jen Herman's going to be leading one on Instagram, and Jennifer Priest is going to be doing one on Pinterest. Again, you can get more information at the website. My recommendation would be to press pause right now and go buy your tickets and come back. That's up to you. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, I assume you've already bought your ticket. Great stuff. We'll talk more about it as things get closer. But for right now, let's go learn more about geofencing. He is the managing partner at Propellant Media LLC, a digital marketing and media solutions provider offering geofencing marketing and programmatic display solutions to organizations, agencies, and companies. I'm very happy to welcome to the show Justin Croxton.
Hey, how's it going, my friend? How's it going? Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
I'm really excited to talk about this. I looked through the archives, the dusty, musty archives we have here at the Agents of Change, and I couldn't find that we had really talked about geofencing at any point. So maybe before we get started, some people listening may not be familiar with geofencing. Can you give us an overview of what it is?
Sure, absolutely. So geofencing is a form of what we call programmatic display advertising or display advertising. But essentially, it gives you the ability as an advertiser to target people and serve ads to people based on the places that they go. And so what ends up happening is we can go into our platform and let's say the best example that I can give is, let's say you're a car dealership and you want to target other people that go to other car dealerships. We can go into our platform and build what we call geofences around just the other dealerships that you want to target. And when anybody walks inside of those other dealerships, or hypothetically those geofences, we've now captured the ID to their smartphone devices, and we now have the ability to serve ads to those people, both while they're inside of the geofence, as well as for up to 30 days after they leave the geofence. And so as you can probably imagine, all the different ways that you can target people online based on different websites that they go to, the categories of websites that folks go to, all those different things. Now with geofencing, you can target people based on the physical places that they go, not just the online places that they go.
All right, I definitely want to dig into that because this is fascinating. My only experience with any sort of geofencing had been up until this point was basically Snapchat filters, where we have a conference, the Agents of Change conference, and while people were inside the confines of the conference, if they decided to Snapchat or decided to snap, that one of the filters that would come up was from our conference, and that was some version of geofencing. But I definitely want to dig a little bit deeper into the kind of stuff you're seeing out there. How did you get drawn into the emerging niche of this emerging niche in mobile marketing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's so many agencies that does a lot of the different things, ranging from search engine optimization to pay-per-click advertising to even Facebook and Instagram advertising. And I've had a number of friends of mine that have worked for a number of technology firms. One of those technology firms is called Simplify. They're probably one of the largest providers of programmatic display advertising, or more specifically, geofencing advertising. And so a lot of times, in order to get onto some of those platforms, you need to be spending at least $20,000 a month or more. And we were able to get to that point relatively quickly based on some pre-existing relationships that we had. And then as a result, we've decided as an agency to offer geofencing to small or mid-sized companies, that range depending on, the situation. But specifically in this case, that's really how we got into it. And we saw, at first it wasn't one of those things where I said, geofencing could really be, an amazing tool for folks. But we started to see that a lot of leads were coming in, were primarily asking about geofencing, not specifically programmatic display. At that point, we said, well, clearly there's so many different use cases for geofencing, whether you're a company that wants to offer it to, for trade shows, or if you want to target your competitors, or if you want to use it for more of a core customer loyalty type situation, if you have a brick and mortar store. So that was really the main way that that our agency got into it. And quite frankly, it is one of the most targeted means of digital advertising that we've come across. Now, we don't believe, and I don't believe personally, that geofencing is the penicillin to everyone's marketing needs. I mean, it really does matter to have somewhat of a nice marketing mix. So, maybe you do want to still throw in some Google AdWords, still focus on SEO, conversion rate optimization, but that's sort of how we got into the geofencing space, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think it makes a lot of sense that you should never be putting all your eggs in any basket, especially something new where the rules could change at any time.
Exactly.
But I definitely see how it could benefit a lot of different sized businesses. What is the difference between geofencing and geotargeting? Another phrase I hear quite a bit. Got
it. So geotargeting is more broad-based, right? So let's take a great example, Google AdWords. You're doing some form of Facebook advertising or Google AdWords, and you want to geo-target a zip code or a city or the radius or 5 miles radius of a particular location. That's more geo-targeting. Geo-targeting is more broad-based, where you're targeting a larger area, and you're layering on top of that. Maybe you want to target people that are searching in that particular area based on certain keywords, those types of things. Whereas geofencing, in my mind, is very, very specific to an individual building or an individual location. Maybe it's a very, very small neighborhood. Maybe it's a retail center. Maybe it's a car dealership. Maybe it's a trade show. Maybe it's a festival or an event. Either way, you're able to build what we call a digital geofence, literally a polygon around the location that you want to hone in on. And normally a geofence can go up to a mile, but normally it's way, way less than that. It's usually just the inches of a building in most cases. And then there's the other question around, well, what about beacons? Because there is a distinction between beacon technology compared to geotargeting, compared to geofencing. But specifically, that's the biggest difference between geofencing and geotargeting. Geotargeting is just way more broad-based and way more expansive than geofencing.
Since you brought it up, would you just give us a quick overview of what beacon is?
Absolutely. So beacons are these physical devices that you can place next to or inside of your building. And whenever someone walks by that building, they happen to have, let's say, their notifications turned on their Android device, they can receive a push notification from your retail store. And so the cool thing about beacons and beacon technology in general is that if you're walking by that location, you can receive that notification, even if you're within 50 to 100 meters. Usually it's about 50 meters of that beacon, you can receive a push notification. Now, I could be off a little bit. I do believe you do have to have certain things turned on your mobile device in order for it to work. But the biggest challenge with beacons is that you will not receive those push notifications if after you leave that location. With geofencing, you can receive the ads or see the ads on different mobile apps and websites, both while you're at the location as well as for up to 30 days after you leave the location. So that's one of the biggest distinctions between geofencing and beacon technology.
So if I can visualize this, I almost imagine beacon technology being almost like a carnival barker yelling at you as you get close enough to him, but as soon as you move out of range, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that, because in our mind, we have so many people that reach out to us asking, well, okay, why can't I do push notifications? And we always tell people, I was like, well, there's a couple challenges with that. First, is it's very intrusive. Some people may decide that they want to keep their notifications turned on, but that doesn't mean that I want you to send me a push notification telling me that there's a special offer. I might not even be the right person, to receive that offer.
I can imagine walking down the streets of New York City, and if my notifications are on, every single business I pass is shouting at me. I could see that being completely irritating.
Yeah, it could be really, really frustrating. Whereas with the geofencing technology, it's less encumbering. The only time that you will see a user will see an advertiser's ads is when that person goes on, one of the 600, 700,000 apps that one of these agencies or our agency may have access to, or when that person happens to go on a website. So it's less of me telling you, hey, come to my store, but instead, you know what, hey, I'm on Angry Birds or I'm on Weather Channel and I see your ad and the ad is compelling and I decide to go to your website. That's, in our mind, that's the beauty with geofencing. It makes it less of a encumbering process.
Right. There does seem to be a slight bit more opt-in from the customer standpoint. But
exactly.
Before we dig too far into that, so one thing that you mentioned is that, when I asked about the difference between geotargeting and geofencing, you mentioned AdWords, and we can use geotargeting there where maybe I only want to advertise my supermarket in the greater Portland area, for example, and so people searching for it. Or maybe on Facebook ads, same thing. I might draw a territory, but one thing I can do with geo-targeting is that I can layer filters. In Google, it would be things like keywords. In Facebook, it might be things like take-home pay or other likes and dislikes, that gender, age, that sort of stuff. Are there any type of those filters for geofencing, or is geofencing basically a binary thing? You were in this space or you're not?
Great question. So the answer is yes. With geofencing, you do also have the ability to create additional filters. So, for example, you can create different demographic and behavioral filters. You can filter to websites based on websites and apps that a certain demographic would typically frequent. You can also do it based on different categories of websites as well. You can layer on a number of other things. I might be drawing a little bit of a blank right now, but certainly just from a layering standpoint, those capabilities are certainly still there with geofencing as it is with geotargeting. And within our platform of programmatic display, you can do both. The biggest difference is that certainly with geofencing, it's a little bit more mobile based than it is desktop and tablet. We do still receive a person will still receive some ads through desktop and tablet, but the majority of the ads will come by way of mobile devices.
Because it was interesting, you mentioned briefly the car dealership and how you could target other people. And as you and I were talking before we got on the air, I'm going to speak in front of a number of yacht dealers. And so, if I'm a yacht dealer, I might say I'd love to geofence a local marina that may or may not be selling alternate boats, or it may just be people who have boats. I would want to get in front of those people, but I'd also want to make sure that they maybe have the money to spend on a $500,000 yacht.
Right. And I'll be honest, I'll say that it can be a little challenging to get all the way down to a specific income range. The hope is that when you're picking these locations to geofence, there's already some thought behind, okay, this is a marina where the person that's spending money at this marina or this person that's coming in on their yacht probably has a good bit of money. So you may decide to just include that entire marina versus trying to layer on other things like demographic filters or particular websites that people may go to. Those are the types of things that's very important for an advertiser to think through so that they're not ultimately limiting their reach with their advertising.
All right. So you kind of hit upon this on the difference between beacons and geofencing, but what are people exactly seeing when we're targeting them? Like, obviously on geofencing, their phone isn't just lighting up. You mentioned apps and websites. So talk to me a little bit more about that. Like, how do our ads show? What are people seeing?
Sure. So let's just let me just give everybody a use case example. So let's say, Rick Hendrick of Chevrolet happens to be one of our clients and they want to go after other competitors. Let's say it's Nally Nissan located here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we build a geofence around Nally Nissan of Atlanta. And anybody that's shopping for a car that walks inside of that geofence, we've now captured the ID to their smartphone device. And they can see the ads on their mobile device through two different ways. They'll see the ads when they happen to be on different apps. So you think about Angry Birds, Words with Friends, the Weather Channel, the PGA Tour app. There's well over 600 to 700,000 apps that we have access to, that if any of those individuals goes on any of those apps, we have the ability to serve them an ad on behalf of one of our advertisers that we have a relationship with, if you will. In this case, it would be the car dealership that's saying, hey, $250 off if you come, visit, or, a particular contest that we're throwing at our particular dealership if you're in a market looking to buy a vehicle. So when someone happens to be on an app, and anybody that's listening right now, just take out your smartphone device, look at all the different apps that you have on your phone, go to the ESPN app, go to the weather app, and you'll scroll down and you will see a few different ads. And they're different sizes. One size might be 300 by 50, another might be 300 by 250. But ultimately, those are the main ways in which people will see those ads. The first is through mobile apps, and the second is through websites. And it's just like any form of any website that accepts advertising. That's the other way in which you'll be able, or that individual will be able, to see those ads. And so again, it's not a push notification. It's not a text message. It's more so, hey, we know that you went to this location, and if you happen to be on one of these apps, you will then also have the ability to see one of our ads. And if the ad is enticing enough, if it's interesting enough, then hopefully you'll click on that ad, you'll come to our website, and then hopefully, we're able to gauge you as a car dealership or whatever that may be.
Okay. You've been doing this for a while. Have you seen certain types of ads that are more effective? Like, should they have movement? Have you seen things where you've done A/B split testing and having a person's face is better than having the product? Any tips that you've picked up while you're doing all this?
Absolutely. I mean, static ads, just general static ads usually does work relatively well. So anything that's a PNG or a JPEG works relatively well. We do like GIF ads. GIF ads work relatively well.
Thank you for correcting yourself, because I was going to have to kick you off the show.
I know. And I tell you, my wife corrected me last night because I said GIF like a few times. I was like, all right, I'm not going to make that mistake again, but I just did. So sorry, everybody who heard that. And so GIF ads are also another good one. And then the other one are HTML5 ads, do relatively well as well. So anything that has some form of animation, because it draws the person's eyes to that ad versus it just you're able to glare over it because there's no movement. So HTML5 and GIF ads actually do work relatively well compared to individual static ads. We also do have the ability to place video within geofencing as well. Now, video is going to typically be a little bit more expensive than standard static ads because the inventory is less and it's also more valuable. So naturally, the bidding and the real-time bidding just bids up the cost per impression a little bit more than static ads. But that's the first thing I'll say as far as that's concerned. And then secondly, when you create an ad, don't just have it be, hey, everybody, I exist, come check me out. No. You need to think about who your demographic is. What's the psychographics of that individual? What are their pain points? What are the needs? What are they really looking for? And put together some type of a special offer, something that's unique that really gives them a reason to check you out. Again, you can't, as I was saying in the beginning, you can't just put your hands up and say, hey, everybody, I exist, because that's not good enough. You're trying to make the most effective impact that you can from your advertising. And one of the best ways to do that is by having some sort of an offer or a special or a percentage off or a unique benefit that's really, really special to you and not special to any other folks that might be out there. Those are the ones that really wins the day in my mind.
All right, so we talked a little bit about the ads and what make them effective. We kind of teased the fact that we are wanting to send people somewhere, which we would call a squeeze or a landing page. Obviously, besides the fact that these should be mobile friendly, because we're talking about an audience that's 99.9% on a mobile device at this point, what advice or tips do you have about that landing page? Because, I mean, there's one way to design something for a desktop. It may be different for a mobile device, and it may be very different if somebody's following an ad that they saw because of geofencing.
Well, definitely when it comes to the landing page, it is very, very important that it's mobile optimized for sure. I mean, I wouldn't even run ads to a non-mobile optimized website at this stage. So that's the number one thing. The second is there are some people who believe that it should be a separate landing page that's separate from the brand or separate from the actual company. So in this case, let's go back to the example of Rick Hendrick of Chevrolet. I wouldn't run an ad to, awesomeatlantacars.com. And that happens to be a website that's owned by Rick Hendrick. I would send it directly to Rick Hendrick of Chevrolet. Why? Because there's a certain level of trust that's developed with it coming from the actual brand itself. And then secondly, The other thing that we like to do is a lot of site retargeting as well. We want to be able to take advantage of those people who have been to the website. And one of the best ways to do that is through site retargeting. And so whether it's through our platform or through Facebook or Google or any of these other platforms, the site retargeting piece is important. And you can't really do that if you're sending traffic to a separate landing page versus sending it to an actual brand name like a Rick Hendrick of Chevrolet or one of those things. So those are the two things that I'll say as it relates to that. But in terms of just what's critical as far as having a well-optimized landing page, I mean, the standard things, number one, make certain that the same content in the text is followed from the ad all the way down to the actual landing page itself. So what does that mean? If you're offering a $500 off when someone comes in to buy a vehicle, have that same language on that individual landing page as well. Very, very important. Number two, you definitely want to have your phone number, email, maybe a form submittal that's on your website. One of the things that we even do at our agency, but we tell everybody to do this, is have a chat box on your website. I cannot tell you how important it is to have a chat box these days. I mean, there are a number of attorneys that now do it as a regular practice, but we see quite a number of attorneys that don't. A lot of attorneys that don't have a chat box. And if you think about that average customer value and how much money an attorney would make, as a result of having a chat box on their site, it just gives you the ability to engage with that person when they're ready to have a conversation with you or when they're ready to communicate with you. So part of what we're trying to do is give people as many options as possible to engage with our brand, engage with our company. And so some people, they want to call you directly and they'll just call you. Some people, they want to send you an email. Some people, they want to submit a form. Some people, they want to engage with you on the chat box. But whatever it is, these are things that you can implement that won't cost you a lot more than what you may be currently spending on, hosting your website or advertising in general. And these things is what will ultimately increase your conversion rates over time. So hope I didn't steer too far off the beaten path as far as geofencing, but that conversation on landing page is very, 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 very critical. Very, very important.
All right. Now, a lot of people, I'm guessing most people listening, have not explored geofencing. I'm sure one question on their mind is like, what is it going to cost? You mentioned there's a bidding process. What can a small business get away with in terms of playing around with some geofencing ads?
Got it. So many of the larger platforms that are out there, as I mentioned before, typically you have to be spending at least $10,000 to $20,000 to get in with geofencing. And then there are some other smaller mid-sized agencies like ours where their minimums or our minimums may be $1,000 to $1,500 a month. I think probably for everyone that's out there, you could probably get away with starting off at $1,000 a month for geofencing advertising. If you're looking to do more of an event, like let's say you're a business and you have a conference that's coming up that you're going to be exhibiting at and you want to connect with all those audience attendees, you may be able to get down to a $500 per month spend for just that particular event. And then, so those are the minimum monthly spends themselves. Now, as it relates to the cost per 1,000 impression number, that's a different story. Cost per 1,000 impressions, and I don't know if everyone knows what an impression is, but imagine that you're on your mobile device and you happen to see one of those ads. The moment you see that ad, that counts as one impression. And so in our industry, we call it cost per 1,000 impressions. And so normally we charge, there's a number of folks that charge, $10 CPM. Some folks go as low as $7 and $6 in some cases, depending on the situation and the volume of spend. I'd say you could probably get away with somewhere between $8 to $10 cost per 1,000 impressions. So let's just say, for example, if you have, $1,000 budget and the agency or the company is going to be charging you a $10 CPM rate, you're going to get 100,000 impressions for that budget. You could probably get away with that and really get a sense of whether this campaign is going to be or is effective in terms of driving leads, driving traffic to my storefront or to my business or not. And the one thing that I didn't mention, Rich, was this whole conversation around conversion zone tracking. So the ability to measure offline foot traffic to your storefront from people that have seen your ads online. I know that we have the ability to do that, but that's another important thing that I wanted to mention to everybody, because when it comes to just conversion rate optimization, you also want to look at both, what your online conversions are, but also what your offline conversions are, so you can get a sense of how effective this campaign is or is not producing, in terms of whatever your main KPI is. So not to get off too much.
No, I think
but I thought it was important to bring that up.
That's incredibly important. I know you and I had discussed it before, but just to be clear, so certainly we can be measuring whether or not a geofencing campaign drove traffic to our website. But what you're telling us now is that we can measure whether or not a geo-targeting ad actually drove foot traffic into our store, correct?
Exactly.
And that is crazy awesome, because, I'm thinking about all the ways that people might use geofencing. If I'm a restaurant, I might geo-target all the movie theaters near me, because people are, spending time on their phone before the movie starts, upon some annoying people during the movie. And so basically, I'm going to tell them, hey, why not come over to my place and get a free pizza or get one, buy one, get one free if you come in after viewing the movie, whatever it is. But then once they walk in, that would be one way of proving, at least to me, that it was effective.
No, that is. I mean, that's one of the best ways that you can prove that it actually was effective. And we use the same geofencing technology. The difference is that we place geofences around, let's say, the movie theater, let's say competitor restaurants that might be nearby, and then we will also build what we call a conversion zone around the actual storefront, the store that's looking to attract customers and patrons. And then at that stage, the only time that the conversion will be counted is when, number one, the person saw the ad, and then number two, they actually walked inside of your store or inside of your location. And that's when we're able to track those conversions for companies.
Very interesting stuff. Very cool technology. It's almost like The Sims, but in real life. Justin, this has been great. Where can people listening find more about you and geofencing online?
I appreciate that, Rich. You can find our agency. Again, my name is Justin Croxton. Our agency is Propellant Media. And you can find us at www.propellant.media. That's PROPELLANT.media. And we're working on an ebook. And so it should be finished within the next week. And Rich, what I will do is I will, send it over to you. And if you want to share it with anyone that has an interest, it really does lay out a nice comprehensive game plan as far as what geofencing is, what to look for, how to build the right geofencing strategy. And then other companies, and not just our company, but other companies that also do geofencing, if people are looking for some other options to choose from as well. So I'll be sure to send that to you as well, Rich.
Perfect. And we'll include those in the show notes. Just one more reason to go check out the show notes. Justin, I really appreciate this. Learned a lot. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks so much, Rich. You have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
Really good stuff from Justin. I really like Justin's marketing. Actually, right after I had first reached out to him and checked out his website, I went to LinkedIn a day or two later, and he had been targeting me with LinkedIn messaging, which I didn't even realize was a thing based on me visiting his website. I've also been seeing his ads on a bunch of different topics as I surf the web. So this is a guy who really appreciates the power of digital advertising and retargeting and everything else he talked about today. For a full transcript of this interview that I did with Justin and with all the links he shared with us, head on over to theagentsofchange.com/246. That's theagentsofchange.com/246. And while you're there, grab an early bird ticket to the Agents of Change 2018, assuming there's any left. Go ahead. Go take care of it right now if you didn't take care of it before. That's all the content we have for this week, and I'll talk to you again in 7.
Tune in next week when we continue our battle to subdue search, solve social media, and master mobile marketing.